Hey everybody, I want to welcome you to Tuesday, March the 9th, and we got another live for you, and just excited to share in tonight. We're going to talk about judging and judgment of others. Have you ever caught yourself in that trap? Well, I'll tell you what, there's a lot of judging going on throughout the world right now, and so I just thought it was a topic that we ought to kind of talk about and just bring up, and it's for a discussion. And again, the more that you write in the comments and are willing to share about your own thoughts on this, the better it is for everybody. And then also that allows more and more people to be able to see what we're talking about and see this feed. So hello, Priest, good to see you on here. Jamie, good to see you on here as well. So this topic, judgment and judging others, and that trap that we occasionally find ourselves falling into, it came up the other day because this book, and this is from Eckhart Tolle, and Awakening to Your Life's Purpose. I first read it in 2012, so 9 years ago. Elka's actually read it twice, and she's on her third time through right now. And she was in the morning. We do our reading in the morning. So if you're not on a reading program, I highly encourage you to be on a reading program. It's amazing what comes out of these reading programs. And when you start reading some really, really good books. And she was reading this to me. She's like, oh my gosh, because the light bulbs went on. And I'm going to read this to you in just a little bit, but I want to kind of set it up a little bit. And so we got into this long discussion, probably lasts about 45, 50 minutes, which led us to judging and judgment. And judgment has an attachment associated with it. So when we're attached to an outcome in any way, shape, or form, it limits us. And it also binds us. It reduces the amount of freedom that you have when you're attached to an outcome. In our business, a lot of times we're talking to a new prospect and we really see this maybe bigger than they do. And we're really hoping that they get started. We really hope that they see this. And because we just know it's just right for them, right? It's perfect for them, but then they don't see it. And then we get disappointed. Well, why should we get disappointed, right? That was that person's decision not to get started. But because we're attached to the outcome, then we take it on ourselves. And that is a form of judgment. And so this book really opened a lot of, like I said, a deep discussion between my wife and I was like, you know what? This is a perfect topic to bring up for Tuesday's Live. So here we are. So the very first question, I always ask you questions throughout this. So the very first question I'm going to ask you tonight, hi, Don, good to see you, is, do you judge others? And is that a good thing or a bad thing? It's kind of maybe got a negative connotation. I don't know. Is it a good thing or a bad thing? That's what we're going to kind of talk about today. And so let me get to the book. All right. So this is the book. And actually, I'm not going to get to the sentence that Elka read me until a little bit. So I'm setting all this up, right? Because after she read it, I went and grabbed the book and I started reading this page. If you have the paperback copy, I'm on page 225, if you happen to have this book. Eckhart Tolle is amazing. He's the author of The Power of Now, about living in the moment. And that's a little bit about what he's talking about here. So the very first part is he says that non-resistance, non-judgment, and non-attachment are the three aspects of true freedom and enlightened living. So then I'm trying to think of, okay, well, think about that. Non-resistance, non-judgment, and non-attachment is the secret to freedom and enlightened living. Well, I like saying things in the positive, right? So I was like, okay, let me go pull out the dictionary and start looking up antonyms for non-resistance, non-judgment, and non-attachment. And so for non-resistance, I came up with peace. For non-judgment, which is what started this whole thing, because I was having a hard time finding an antonym that fit for non-judgment, but I eventually came up with open. And then for non-attachment, I came up with allow. So I rewrite this sentence to this: to be at peace, to be open, to be at peace, to be open to the world of infinite possibilities and allow all things to flow through you is the three aspects of true freedom and enlightened living. And I like that so much more. Even though this guy is an expert, I just like the way that resonates for me even better. So let me reread that. To be at peace, to be open to the world of infinite possibilities, and allow all things to flow through you are the three aspects of true freedom and enlightened living. So the sentence that Elka read to me, that what really started this whole discussion, was this. Once you see and accept the transience of all things, that means that things are always in motion, right? There's anything stagnant. Once you see and accept the transience of all things, they're constantly changing. In the inevitability of change, you can enjoy the pleasures of the world while they last. You know, one of the things that we were talking about, and I used to be this person, Elka was mentioning a person that they're always like, oh, I don't allow myself to be happy because I know it won't last. And I could relate to that because I used to be like that. I used to be one of those people, oh my God, I'm not going to allow myself to get excited when things are going good because I know they're eventually going to go bad. But that totally misses the entire point, doesn't it? And believe me, I'm going to wrap this all back around to judgment. So think about this again. I'm going to read it again. Once you see and accept the transience of all things and the inevitability of change, you can enjoy the pleasures of the world while they last without fear of loss or anxiety. Is there any anxiety going on in this world today about the future? When you are detached, you gain a higher vantage point from which to view the events in your life instead of being trapped inside them. In other words, things are changing. Things are going to go good. Things are going to go bad. It's how you deal with them. It's how you respond to it. Now, if you're attached to the outcome, like I started out saying in the beginning, and you feel you should always be happy. You know, I mentioned to Elka, you know, you'll see these memes on there. You deserve happiness. According to whom? Says who? It's certainly not biblical, all right? Bible doesn't say you deserve happiness. It's, do you deserve happiness? I mean, it's great to be happy, but do you deserve it? When you're attached to the outcome and then you're not happy, well, then you're disappointed. So we're not going to be happy. We're not going to have everything going our way all the time. But if you allow things to flow through you, when things aren't going your way, you know that this too shall pass. I love that from Princess Bride, if you're familiar with the movie, right? This too shall pass. And that's basically what he's saying in this on this page of this, right? So do you judge others? What is judgment would be another great thing. If you would like to share your comment and what you feel to judge others or being in judgment of others means to you, please drop that in. Again, if you're watching this as a replay or live, let us know that as well. Okay? So now, how does this relate to judgment? Like I said, being attached. So things that are kind of like being a judge of others leads to an opinion or a decision based on thoughts, feelings, and evidence. So this person believes that, well, you believe differently, so now you've just judged that person. If you feel that that person's a good person, bad person, or that person doesn't know what they're talking about, or they're right or they're wrong. Right, wrong, a lot of times, oftentimes, that means there's judgment associated with that. So do you judge others? All right. Psychology says that there's three key judgments that we do, and they're based on morality, sociability, competence, on when they're judging the other person, and everything can be wrapped up into that. by morality, how they treat others. So how you see other people treating other people, all right? That would be when you see somebody treating somebody poorly, you're judging, and then you attach something to that, you're judging them. You're judging a person's honesty, their trustworthiness, sincerity. Like I said, again, I'm not saying that judging others is necessarily a bad thing, but it's all got to be within context. Okay? Sociability says how a person promotes affection towards another person. That would be their friendliness, their likability, their kindness. And then another key judgment that we do has to do with person's competence. Are they intelligent? Are they skillful? Are they confident? Those would be kinds of things like that. Now, speaking of the Bible, when you get into the biblical aspects of this, Romans, it's all over the Bible that we're not supposed to judge others. That's God's role alone, right? That's not our role. And I was sharing, so Elke and I are having this morning discussion over coffee, and I was sharing with her, I think I mentioned on a live a couple lives ago about personal growth, and I was sharing how after years of reading personal growth books, all of a sudden one morning I woke up and I'm getting ready to leave for work, and I'm like, man, I feel like I'm 17 with my whole life in front of me again, because my mind was open to all this personal growth stuff and realizing that we live in a world of infinite possibilities. Well, another aha moment for me was probably about 15 years ago or somewhere in that regime. And I realized what the Bible was talking about with judging others. And when I was able to let that go, I'm not saying that I still don't do it. It's innate in us, right? Because we're quote unquote sinful people if you believe in God and the Bible and all that, which I do. So it's innate with us. And so it's one of those things we constantly have to be aware of and acknowledge and be aware of, so we're not attached to it. Okay, so we can allow it to flow through us. But I'm driving to work one morning and I have this aha moment. I'm like, man, I really do judge other people. I was really bad at it. And when I let go of that, all of a sudden I made a commitment to myself, a resolution. And to resolve in something is really amazing. If you've never read Benjamin Franklin's book, 13 Resolutions, it's phenomenal. His 13 resolutions that he did a resolution, I think it was per week. He repeated it until he got through 13, and then he started it over again. And he did it, so you multiply that out, how many times he did it during the year, like 4 times a year. Amazing. It totally changed him into the greatest statesman this country has ever produced, right? And he was a person that everybody hated. People didn't like him. People would avoid him. If they saw him walking down the street, they would go over into the other side of the street just to avoid Benjamin Franklin. And yet he turned his whole life around through his 13 resolutions. So I basically made a resolution that I'm going to be always aware when I start to judge another person. I'm going to reduce the amount of judging I'm doing to other people as much as possible. Okay? In Romans 14:13, if you're not a believer, that's fine. You can still learn a lot. There's a lot of wisdom within the Bible that has stood the test of time, right? But in Romans 14:13, it states that, therefore, let us not judge one another anymore, but rather resolve this, not to put a stumbling block or a cause to fall in our brother's way. In other words, judging others only hurts everybody. It hurts yourself, it hurts the other person, and it puts a stumbling block from progress and being enlightened, right? So think about, the Bible's referring, in this passage is kind of referring to the poor demeaning the rich. Well, I experience that from time to time because Elke and I are, fairly well off, right? But that didn't happen by happen chance. There was a lot of effort that went into it. So that person just sees the end result, and then they put a judgment on us, for instance. Have they gone through the turmoil and all the discipline, the daily resolutions, the affirmations, all the work into the personal growth, all the reading? Have they done the same thing but not achieved? And I'll tell you, no. Because if they had, they would be elevated to a higher level. It takes work and effort. So when people judge the rich, and I'm not rich by any means, I mean, compared to some of the wealth in this world, but when the poor judge the rich, they're stumbling in the way of progress for everyone, and they're actually only hurting themselves because that person's still going on, but they're attached and they're now feeling, right? Opinion, decision based on thoughts, feelings is judging. And when you have that negative feeling towards another, it's not hurting the other person. The only person that's hurting is you. And that's the aha moment that I had driving into work that morning. If you put yourself above others, maybe a wealthy person looks down on the poor people because they haven't gone through that discipline. Well, you could be wealthy if you had read the books and did the discipline and got the knowledge and da-da-da-da-da. What good is that going to do, right? So when we judge others in general, we're only hurting ourselves. And so if you can let go of that judging of others, it's another piece towards that freedom clause. So when I go back to reading how I rewrote this, it says to be at peace, to be open to the world of infinite possibilities, and allow all things to flow through you, to me, are the three aspects of true freedom and enlightened living. Think about politics. My God, this country's being torn apart because of judging, right? If I say something, immediately, boom, somebody's all over me. If I was to post something political on Facebook, there's other people on the other side of the table, if you will, and they'll come down on you. I mean, I know people that have lost friends, have lost family members. I was just skiing with a good friend of mine. He's telling me how he's lost family members. It's ridiculous, right? But that's all judging. So, do you judge others? What is judgment? I should start out with that one. What is judgment? Do you judge others? Are you aware of how you judge others? And then the final question I wanted to put forward, because I'm out of time, would be, what would it be like to be non-judgmental? If you're offended, you've just judged, all right? The Course of Miracles states that if I defend, then I'm offended, right? So if it causes that inner reaction within you, then you're offended. And there's a lot of that going on right now across many, many different areas of living. But it's all forms of judgment, which the Bible states we should not do. It decays morality, it decays sociability, and it decays competence. Those three key ways that when we judge, if we do those things to others, we actually are lowering awareness, lowering the enlightenment, lowering our freedom. So it's just not great. And then Elke added, and I totally agree with her, we were talking about profiling, and it's a big buzzword right now, but then she said labeling. And when you label somebody, you're judging them. So, what is judgment? Do you judge others? Are you aware of how often you judge others? And what would it be like to be non-judgmental? So I'll leave you with those 4 thought-provoking questions, and I wish you a great night. We'll do this again on Thursday, new topic. Thanks for all for